today I'm going to be making a circle bag. I am going to be using these pair of jeans. They are from Levi's, but I specifically got them from a thrift store here in Jamaica called Thrift Nature. If you are looking for good thrifted pieces, you could definitely check out Thrift Nature. These are the circle bags that I currently own. I have made so many circle bags in my entire life. If you don't know me or you're not familiar with me, then you probably don't know that I am actually a bag making connoisseur. I've been sewing bags for like 10 years, an entire decade, you know what I'm saying? So I know my stuff. I just released a pattern for this circle bag that I'm going to be making today. It is pretty much a digitized version of the pattern that I have been using for all these years to make the bags that I sell to my customers, and I'm willing to give this design away to you guys because I feel like it's a very fun thing to make. If you love circles like I do and you like incorporating them into your style, this is a really amazing way to do that. Grab a snack, grab a drink, and watch this video before you actually sew anything. If you're new here, I'm Gabby from QUAINT, and on this channel, I share sewing tips, tutorials, and sew-alongs for the girlies who want to learn how to sew their own bags and clothes. But if you are a man or a boy, you're also welcome here. I've been creating PDF patterns for probably about 2 years, and I have learned a lot as it relates to making them as easy as possible for people to use. I just look at my own experience and I look at the complaints that other people have about patterns overall, and I try my best to tweak my patterns to address those problems. So I'm going to show you guys how I assemble this. This entire pattern has 9 pages. There are 3 rows: row A, row B, and row C. There's C1, C2, and C3. There's B1, B2, and B3. And likewise, there's A1, A2, and A3. On the first page, there are instructions telling you how to assemble the pattern. It says to trim away the left margin from pages A2, A3, B2, B3, C2, and C3. That means everything except B1, A1, and C1. So I'm just going to take those out of the way. I actually put a margin so that you can know exactly where to cut. Step 2 says to overlap A1 with A2 and A2 with A3, and then attach them using tape, glue, or a sewing machine. I'm going to just use tape. The grid lines on the pattern makes it really easy to line the entire thing up. And I realized that sometimes patterns can still be not so accurate because of the fact that the paper can sometimes shift in the printer. I don't really have any skinny clear tape right now, so I'm just gonna use double-sided tape. So that's row A, and now I'm going to assemble row B. I'm going to overlap row C with row B, and I'm making sure that the lines on the grid are in alignment. So you want to trim off the excess paper that's at the top of each of the rows, or at least row B and row C. I don't have to join the entire thing together because these pattern pieces don't need to be joined this way. Only these 2 and these 3 over here. But this is how the entire pattern is gonna look. I'm going to just cut here. This page didn't even have to be connected in the first place because obviously it stands alone. I'm going to overlap these, and I'm gonna cut here as well. This didn't even have to be connected either. This is going to go here. And then I'm gonna cut this to separate these pieces so I can work on this. And then put this here. So now I can actually cut all of these pieces from the paper. There are a few pieces that have to be overlapped, and I did them this way because they're too long to fit on 9 pages. So you would just take the paper and you would put it up to that line where it says to overlap, and then you just put tape right there. This piece is for the shoulder strap. You see how long it is? I definitely could not fit this on 9 pages. This piece is going to be for the piping that's going to go around the borders of the circle bag. So with this pattern, I can make as many circle bags as my heart desires. Don't shy away from putting together a sewing pattern. I promise when you're done, you're going to feel so happy and fulfilled, and you're going to feel good to know that you can make whatever that sewing pattern is for over and over and over again. Now that I have my pattern pieces cut out, I can go ahead and cut into these jeans. As you can see, the jeans aren't long enough to facilitate the cutting of this, so chances are I'm gonna have to cut it in like 2 parts and then join it together, but that's the least, honestly. We're gonna get it done regardless. I'm gonna use this to pad the bag. It's gonna have a quilted vibe. This is gonna give the bag even more structure and make it firmer. There are 2 layers of wadding here. So I'm gonna do 2 layers for each piece of denim. This is what I have left, and I'm definitely going to find some use for this. I don't know what exactly I'm gonna do with it just yet, but I'm definitely gonna put it to good use because this is some good stuff right here. Now that I have my pattern pieces cut out, I can go ahead and cut into these jeans. As you can see, the jeans aren't long enough to facilitate the cutting of this, so chances are I'm gonna have to cut it in like 2 parts and then join it together, but that's the least, honestly. We're gonna get it done regardless. I'm gonna use this to pad the bag. It's gonna have a quilted vibe. This is gonna give the bag even more structure and make it firmer. There are 2 layers of wadding here. So I'm gonna do 2 layers for each piece of denim. This is what I have left, and I'm definitely going to find some use for this. I don't know what exactly I'm gonna do with it just yet, but I'm definitely gonna put it to good use because this is some good stuff right here. This is everything. With that being done, I can start sewing. The first thing I'm going to sew is the wadding to the lining and main fabric. I'm going to be doing a checkered style, so I'm going to draw like some diagonal lines on the fabric, and then I'm going to stitch on top of those, and you're going to see the cool pattern that it's going to form. I'm going to just make a sandwich. This is the wrong side, and this is the wrong side. So I have my wadding right here in the middle, and my denim on top of it. And I'm gonna just stitch on each of these lines. I can finally cut out the circle out of these two pieces and the base out of this piece. These are all the pieces for the circle bag, and guys, I am so excited because look at it. This is perfection. All from a pair of jeans. Hey you, it's day 2. Today I'm going to be cutting out a Libra sign to go on my circle bag. I love to customize the things that I make, especially bags. I'm going to use my Cricut Maker 3 to cut out 2 Libra symbols, one for each circle, which means that there's going to be a Libra sign on the front and on the back, and I have big Libra energy, so I'ma rep my stuff, okay? I'm thinking about 4 inches, and I already put the leatherette pieces that I'm going to be using to cut this out on my strong grip mat. I discovered just the other day that I could cut things out of leatherette fabric using my Cricut Maker 3, and I have not cut anything just by hand ever since because this just takes all of the work out of it. I need to size this down to about 4 inches wide. And then I'm going to duplicate this because I want to cut 2 of them. Then I'm gonna click on make and select on the mat, confirm. So I'm gonna move this one down here because that's how it's aligned on the mat here. So I know that the first one is gonna go from 1 all the way down to 4. This will be perfect. The second one is gonna go from 4.5 down to 8. So this is perfect as well. Now I can click on next, and I'm gonna work with faux leather, paper thin, because that's what's been working for me. I would mirror it if it was like a number or a letter or a word, but since it's a symbol that's gonna be the same thing regardless, I'm just gonna leave the mirror off. So with this thing blinking, I can put the mat in, but actually before I do that, I need to tape this down because when these types of fabrics are being cut, the fabric has a tendency to slide. I'm just gonna press the loading button and it's gonna take the mat in. At this point, I can press the play button since it's blinking and it will start to do its thing. So in the meantime, I'm gonna find the center of this bag by folding it in half, putting a notch here and another notch here, then folding it in half to match those notches so that I can put a notch here and a notch here as well. So that gives me 4 points on each of the circles. I'm gonna take my ruler, put a line down the center, and then I'm going to put my Libra symbol. I could use crazy glue, but I don't want to mess this fabric up. So I'm going to use this double-sided tape. And I particularly like the fact that it's narrow. So this means that my needle probably won't get into it because it's not gonna be at the edges. So now this is pretty nice and sturdy. To store my patterns, I put holes at the top of each of the pattern pieces using a hole punch, and then I put this cord through them so that I can hang it on the door. To sew the Libra sign to the bag, I am going to be using coconut oil on this makeup pad right here. It doesn't have to be coconut oil if you're going to be doing this. It can be any oil. You just want it to lubricate the fabric so that your presser foot will be able to go over it. I've been doing this for years and it works like a charm. So I just rub it so that it's covered in oil, but you don't want to drench it too much because that can be really messy. You can even use Vaseline if that's all you have, but I honestly recommend using a nice light oil. Once it's lubricated, I will take it to my sewing machine and just stitch around the edges of it. I like to walk my presser foot and my needle over these short parts, and then when I get to the longer parts, I can stitch the regular way, and then when I get to these curves, I like to walk the needle and I check to make sure that it's following the same path, because precision is really important here, and I always strive to have anything that I do look as neat as possible. When it's a continuous curve, you want to slightly pivot your fabric little by little each time that you turn it, because if you pivot too much, it's going to be a sharp stitch, and that's not what you want at all. So as you notice, I'm lifting up my presser foot every single time that I pivot my fabric. Now once I get here where it's a little bit straighter, I can just stitch. And by the way, I recommend using a stitch length of about 3 for this. When I get closer to the edges, I like to just walk my needle so that I don't stitch past it. This step is completely optional, by the way, so if you don't want to add a symbol to your bag, you can go ahead and skip this section. The way I finish this is a little bit different. I will just look for the thread at the back of the fabric and pull it up. And I do that for all the threads that will allow me, because sometimes I am not able to get the thread through from the other side. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky. So if it is tricky, or if it breaks like this one just broke, I'll just leave it alone. But otherwise, I will tie a knot 3 times. And I cut the thread away. This is gonna make it so that the stitches that are on the Libra sign won't pull out, because sometimes when you just cut the thread, the stitches will become undone. And then if I have any threads left on the other side, I will just cut right there close to the fabric. Libra signs stitched. The next thing I'm gonna sew is the pockets that are gonna go on the inside of the bag. I changed my mind about one of these Libra signs. So instead of having both of the circle pieces with a Libra sign, I'm gonna put this evil eye amulet. I made this probably like a month and a few weeks ago. I'm gonna just go like this and put this on top of it. And I'm going to stitch here and here. Now I will turn this up like this and put it behind the denim fabric. Then I'm going to top stitch here, and I'm going to bring it around here to create pockets. The pockets are done, and I'm going to add them to the inside of the bag. So I'll flip them over like this, and I'm gonna fold the pocket so I can find the center and put a notch into it. And this notch is gonna be my guide right here. So I'm gonna put this notch on top of this notch, but the denim fabric is gonna be facing this way, right side up. I'm gonna stitch around here. This step is gonna add a very unique touch to the bag, and it's adding piping around the edges. This is one of the signature styles on my designs, and I just like it a lot because I feel like it makes the bag look a lot more professional, like it was bought in a store. I'm gonna take these strips of fabric, fold it up here by about 1/2 inch. Then I'm gonna put the piping into it like this and enclose it. To do this, I'm gonna have to change my regular presser foot to the zipper foot. It's very important that you put your needle in such a way that it falls on the very edge of the piping. So I realized that with this zipper foot, the best way to achieve that is to keep your hand over here while you sew, because otherwise it will shift. And if you notice that it shifts, you want to readjust and stitch again. I just stitched all the way down to the end without folding. So I'm going to take my scissors and just cut into the extra fabric here. And I'm doing this so that the piping will be able to go around the curvature of the bag. This is gonna give it more flexibility. You're gonna take the piping and you're gonna put this end on top of the bottom notch, and then you're gonna stitch the piping to the edge of the bag. So you'll notice that every time I go around another bend, I bring the piping in alignment with the edge of the fabric. So the edge of the piping goes in alignment with the edge of the fabric. And I'm stitching in small portions. So when I get to this point, I'm just gonna curve the piping so that it will be in alignment with where I started. I'm gonna check to see where the space is, because remember I left a space here. So I'm gonna check to see where that space is, and I'm going to put the piping in alignment with that and cut off this part. Then I'm gonna open the space and slide this into it, and it should fit perfectly. If it's too long, you can trim off the excess fabric. If it's too short, then that means you trimmed off too much. And then I'll just keep stitching. But when I get to this part where they meet, I'm going to just bring my needle over here because this can be really bulky. So instead of trying to stitch towards it, I just bring my needle on top of it and stitch for just a short distance. That's pretty much it for the piping. Do you see how professional this looks? Pocket at the back, that's gonna end up on the inside. And I'm starting to wonder if I should have stitched this on my industrial sewing machine. I might just do that because this part down here is really bulky. I really wanted to just stick to my domestic so that you guys could, you know, relate to this. But sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And if you're gonna be sewing certain things, then it's worth investing in an industrial sewing machine. But you notice how chunky and bulky all of this looks? I'm going to stitch around this to just cinch it together. Look at it in comparison to the top piece. The next piece I'm gonna sew is the zipper panel that's gonna go at the top of the bag. This zipper is sold by the yard. So I just buy as much of this as possible so I can have lots of it to do whatever it is that I want to do. But I went ahead and cut a length that was the same as my denim fabric, and I also have a zipper slide. You can find this on my sewing supplies list. I have that linked in my description box down below. What I'm gonna do with this is to put it right side down on top of the denim fabric, and then I'm going to put lining on top of that. So I'm pretty much making a sandwich. I'm gonna stitch here. Now I'm gonna take this piece and flip the zipper over and do the same exact thing . So I'm gonna take the zipper slide and I'm going to open this just a bit, and with the zipper slide facing me, I'm going to just slide it on the left here and then slide the other part on the right. And holding the two sides, I'm just gonna bring this down, and that right there, my friends, is a zipper panel. I'm gonna stitch this part closed so that the zipper won't go past. The next thing I'm gonna sew is the straps. I have these 4 pieces, and like I said earlier, I had to cut them like this because the pants weren't long enough to facilitate the entire length. So I'm just gonna cross these over just like I would with bias tape. So I'm gonna have one piece like this, and then I'm gonna put the other piece at a right angle like this. I'm gonna stitch from here to here, and that's gonna create one long strap. To prepare the straps, I'm gonna fold them in half just at the beginning. That's gonna give me a crease in the middle right there. So with that crease, I am going to fold the sides towards the center, and I can carry that all the way down to the end. After I have this first fold, I can fold the next side to meet it in the middle and press that down as well. Instead of using the entire length of the strap, I'm going to cut off a piece of it, and this is gonna be for the D-ring that's going to go on one side. So this is about 4 inches, and I'm going to cut off the excess fabric here as well. I could double this too, but it's gonna be folded like this anyway, so I don't have to double it. For this piece, I'm gonna stitch along the sides, and I'm gonna do the same thing for this. I'm gonna be using one of these and one of these. So these are the bag hardwares that I'm gonna be using on the strap. You can find this on my sewing supplies list that's in the description as well. So I realized that this is going to be too thick to go through this right here. It would have worked if I had one that was a square instead of a rectangle. So in order to fix that, I am going to make it the same thickness as this right here, which is just 1 layer. I did cut 2 straps, but I realize now that 1 strap would be a lot better. So this is a tweak that I'm going to be adding to the pattern by the time you guys get it. So I'm just going to use one of these instead. And I stitched down the middle twice. I'm going to take the lining piece, and with it facing right sides up, I'm going to put this on top of it. So the lining side of this is on the right side of this fabric right here. Then I'm going to put this here, and then I'm gonna put this on top of it. I'm gonna stitch all of this. I'm gonna put the zipper panel around each of the circles, but I first need to make sure that the size matches up. So I'm gonna measure around the piping, starting here, 27.25, and it would be nice if I get the same measurement on this. You really want to get the same measurement because that's gonna make it easier to put the zipper panel around it. 27.25 as well. I love that. I'm very much grateful. I'm going to add an extra inch to that for allowance. So I'm going to measure 28.25. Now that I have the right length for this, I can put the strap in there. So with this piece facing up, I'm going to put my strap down and give that a stitch. This is the thread that I'm using. Then I'm going to take this piece that's under here and bring it together with this. So the right side is facing up and the wrong side is facing down. Then I'm going to take this piece and put it on top here and stitch with a 1/2 inch allowance. I have to put 4 notches into this fabric. So I'm folding it so that these 2 seams are touching each other. Then I'm gonna put a notch right there, a notch right there, one here. I'm going to match the notches that I just created. Then I'm gonna pinch the opposite ends, and I'm gonna put a notch here and a notch here. Then I'm gonna flip it over, put a notch here and another one right there. And I can start matching this piece to the circles. I'm going to pin the 4 points on this piece to the 4 points on the bag. Using this zipper foot, I'm going to stitch around the imprint of the piping to attach this piece to the circle of the bag. This is how it's looking so far. I'm gonna put this piece around the raw edges of the bag. So first, I'm going to fold the top down by 1/2 inch to the wrong side, just like I did with the piping. And then starting at the bottom of the bag, I'm gonna put the right side towards the wrong side of this fabric. And I'm going to stitch that all the way around the bag. Yo, I am pretty sure that this bag is going to last for a lifetime. I'll probably end up passing this bag down to my daughter at this point because it's so well made and so sturdy. When I get to where I started, I'm going to keep on stitching and I'm going to let the two fabrics actually meet each other. Before I move on to stitching this down, I'm going to put the other circle on. So I'm going to open out the bag. And I'm going to stitch around the entire thing, but I'm going to use the line that's on the innermost part of the circle as my guide. So if you notice, this has a nice, neat finish, and that tucks away the raw edges that are on one side of the circle, and it also gives the circle bag more structure. So on the next side, I'm just gonna fold my fabric under, starting where the two ends meet. I'm just gonna fold it towards the bag and then fold it one more time. And I'm gonna start stitching here, and as I go around the rest of the bag, I'll fold and stitch as well. I'm just carefully pushing out all the corners and edges and checking for any imperfections. And if there were any imperfections, I could just turn the bag inside out and fix them. I'll take this piece right side up, and with this strap adjuster right side up, I'll put the strap through the back of it or through the underside. And then I'll bring this middle piece down towards the right and take this and put it into here on the left. Then I will pass this piece through here with the right side facing down and the wrong side facing up. And I'll just bring it back this way and put it back in here. The right side is facing the camera, by the way, which means that it's away from me. So I'm gonna put it into where I put it first. And I'm going to bring this up a little bit to give myself some more room. And then I'll bring the bar in the middle over to the right so that I can drag these two pieces through. But with this piece, I'm gonna fold once and then twice to create this, and I'm gonna take this piece and stitch it on top of it. I can adjust the strap to make it shorter, and I think I'll most likely end up wearing it short most of the time because I just like when my bags are short. But if I ever want to wear it across my body, I can make the straps longer and be able to have as much room as possible. So this is the evil eye side, and then this is the Libra side. If you're gonna be this bag without an industrial sewing machine, then you could make a few tweaks to make it a lot easier for you. Because my intention was to sew the entire thing with my domestic sewing machine, but that did not work out because of the fact that I added all this wadding and the piping. So I was sewing so many layers of fabric at once. Let me see, like at this point, for example, we're looking at 2 layers from the piping, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers from the wadding, so that's already 6 layers, and then 1, 2 from here, that's 8 layers, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. This point right here is like 12 layers of fabric. I'm not expecting any domestic sewing machine to be able to do that. Even my industrial sewing machine needed a needle change and a thread change. I had to switch from the regular polyester thread to this thread right here. This thread is unbreakable. And I was using a size 18 needle in my industrial sewing machine. If you're gonna be as courageous as me, you wanna make sure that you have an industrial sewing machine. Other tweaks that you could make is perhaps to just keep the wadding in the center of the bag, or at least away from the parts where you're going to put the piping. That way you don't have all that extra bulk. I feel like the wadding definitely has a lot to do with it. You could try that, and if that still doesn't work, then you could just make the bag without piping. If you make the bag without piping and you still add wadding, you're still going to be able to get the same effect. Well, actually not the same effect. You won't have the piping around it, and I really like the piping, but at least you will have the same shape. You could also just try 1 layer of wadding instead of 2 like I did. I just really like the puffy effect that 2 layers gave, and the wadding that I was working with was pretty thin anyway. So I'm gonna go enjoy my new circle bag.